What's up, everybody? Good afternoon, happy Sunday, and we are going to be fitting in another mock draft. Originally, I was planning to wait for a little bit, maybe do the next mock draft a couple of weeks closer to the draft, but then I was like, you know what? The first week of free agency just wrapped. We now have a pretty good idea of what this team is going to look like headed into the draft because, for reasons that I stated on my morning video, not overly likely we're going to be doing all that much more to improve the team. And anything that we do to improve the team is also going to possibly take away from the team at least a little bit. So we have a pretty good idea of where we stand. So I thought it would be cool to do mock draft version 5.0 today. And before I get started here, I want to talk about the goal of this mock draft. The previous mock drafts, the last four ones that we did, were about throwing random scenarios at the wall that were appealing to me. Just coming up with random things that I thought sounded good, that the team might like, that would fill needs, that would make people happy. That was me trying to come up with a bunch of different things that could work. But now that free agency has passed, now that we know we're keeping Geno and Drew Lock, now that we know we have Draymond Jones and Jaron Reed, now that we know that we have a guy like a Julian Love, we can start to really narrow in on what the team might be doing come late April. So this mock draft is going to have a lot of picks that showed up in previous mock drafts. I'm not going to be trying something new here. What I'm trying to do is do something that makes sense. And in order to do that, I'm taking the previous mock drafts that I put together and combining them all into something that, as of right now, I think makes the most sense. So this mock is a scenario that I'm pretty on board with, but it's more than that. It's also a scenario that I think that John Schneider and Pete Carroll might be on board with. And it's really hard to know what they might be thinking at any given time, of course. But looking at this roster, looking at the things that we addressed and didn't address so far in free agency, looking at the money we have left, this is a scenario that makes a lot of sense to me. So I'm going to break it down step by step, and we'll see where we land. But I believe this mock draft takes care of most of our problems and would make most fans feel pretty good about where this team is right now. So we're not really experimenting anymore. The first four mocks were like experimenting with different ideas. What if we take a quarterback? What if we trade down? What if we keep the pick and do this? What if we do that? You know, a bunch of different things like that. This is going to be the start of the mock drafts where I'm really trying to find that one OP scenario. With that being said, we're starting off with, to me, the guy that most Seahawks fans are getting their energy behind right now. It's Jalen Carter, defensive lineman of Georgia. I've made many videos about Jalen Carter in recent times, talking about where I am with him as a prospect right now. It's very complicated. However, like I said, this mock draft is something that I think is within the realm of possibility of happening. This is not necessarily what I would do. And right now, looking at what the Seahawks have, looking at what the Seahawks are doing, I think that the move for this team at this moment is to say we need the best player available on the defensive line. We need a superstar on this defensive line because it is so unbelievably thin right now. We are unbelievably thin at three positions right now: defensive end, nose tackle, linebacker. There are no linebackers and there are no nose tackles you can take this high without being mocked and laughed at. You definitely don't want to do that. So that leaves Jalen Carter. As of right now, I think that he is the most likely pick. Personally, like if that's the pick, I'll live with it. I'll be nervous about it, of course. But at the end of the day, and this is one of the few times I'm going to say this, we're just going to have to trust the people at the top of this organization here. Next, with the other first-round pick, I'm going another defensive lineman. I'm going Bryan Bresee of Clemson. He had a nice combine. He tested well. I'll be talking a lot more about Bresee in the coming days because he's obviously a pretty controversial figure right now as well, because he just hasn't played a lot of football lately because of stuff that doesn't have anything to do with his performance on the field. And I think that if you get Bresee in here, you are putting your defensive line in a position to actually succeed. After taking a look at where we are right now on the defensive line, the reason why I'm double dipping, and I know people are going to be like, how are you double dipping at the defensive line in the first round? Right now we have one really good guy, Draymond Jones, one rotational guy, Jarran Reed, one guy who has shown a teeny bit of promise, Myles Adams, and that's it. All right, if we want to be successful this year, I firmly believe that Jarran Reed needs to be the second defensive end off the bench. He should not be starting, and he should not be the first man in the rotation. He should be second. The last 2 years, Jarran Reed has played an average of 42 snaps a game. I want to get that number down. I want to get that number way down to like 30 to allow him to be maximum effectiveness. So Brian Bresee is my other first-round pick. Stack that defensive line. Round 2, pick 37, I'm taking Mazi Smith. That's right. I'm using my first 3 picks on defensive linemen. I don't care. I do not care at all. I know how it looks. I know people are going to be like, that's way too much focus on one area of the team. I know some people aren't going to like it. I do not care. Right now, our defensive line, our nose tackle position specifically, let's just talk about nose tackle. You've got Al Woods, who is, I think, 37 years old and should probably be playing like 15 snaps a game at this point. And you've got Brian Monet, who might not play again this year, by the way. Like, he tore his ACL late in the year last year. He might not play this year. And by the way, if he does play, he's kind of bad at football, so it would seem. Or at the very least, he didn't fit what we were trying to do, and what we're trying to do is still what we're trying to do. We need a real nose tackle. We need somebody who can play a large amount of snaps. At the very least, we need somebody who can come in and play like 40 snaps a game. And then, as of right now, I guess Al Woods would just play out the rest. And honestly, you could argue we need 2 nose tackles, but this is just where the need is right now, guys. Jalen Carter, Brian Bresee, Mazi Smith. Now you have a real defensive line. Now you've got Draymond Jones and Jalen Carter. You've got Bresee and Reed off the bench with Myles Adams cleaning up after him. And Mazi Smith starting in the middle with either Al Woods or somebody else backing him up. That's a real DL. Okay, with my next round 2 pick, I'm taking another defensive player because I'm sorry, that's just where the need is right now. That's just where we have to start addressing things. And it's a linebacker this time. Daiyan Henley, linebacker out of Washington State. A lot of Seahawks fans already love this guy. He's really good in coverage. He tested pretty well at the Combine. Good all-around player. He's moving up draft boards. There was a time not that long ago where he might have been a 4th-round pick. I mean, it hurt me. It killed me to not take Trenton Simpson at 20, by the way. So this is how I'm kind of making up for it. I'm bringing in another linebacker who I really like in this draft, who you can get probably in the middle to later part of the 2nd round. Daiyan Henley would probably be a day 1 starter, and that would be uncomfortable. But that's the situation the Seahawks are in right now. You've got nothing really going on at linebacker. You've got Jordan Brooks, who might not play this year and almost certainly won't be ready for week 1. So week 1, you're looking at Devin Bush, 1st-round bust, who you're hoping to fix. And you've got John Radigan. So you need to address linebacker as heavy as possible, even if this is a little bit of a reach, and I don't think that it is. Even if it is, just do it. Just do it. Get a good linebacker who can cover, which is something that is a problem with Jordan Brooks, who you might be trying to replace because of that. And just stack up this defense a little bit here. That's what I'm saying. Okay, round 3, I'm finally addressing the offense. I have Joe Tippmann, center of Wisconsin. We need another center on this team. I have no problems with Evan Brown. I think he's going to be really good for us. But we currently don't have a backup center. And Tippmann has become my favorite center in this draft. Elite combination of athleticism and strength. He's got both in spades. The only issue is, will he be able to put it together in the NFL? He might need a little bit of time to do it. I think he's a relatively safe prospect, but I don't know if he's going to put it together year 1, and that's okay. We've got Evan Brown, and he's going to be starting at center this year, and Tippmann can be his backup. And it's only a 1-year deal for Evan Brown, so next year, 2024, Tippmann's ready to step in. Supposedly, Carroll doesn't really like having rookie center start anyway, so now you don't even have to really worry about that. So I'm bringing in Joe Tippmann to be a backup center on our line. And then in round 4, pick 121, I'm taking Roschon Johnson, the running back from Texas. I've talked about him plenty before. I've had him in a couple of my previous mock drafts, but I'm going to really start to hammer in on him now that we're getting closer to the draft. He's going to be in a lot of my mocks going forward, if not all of them. His combine profile was almost identical to Chris Carson. It's Chris Carson without the injuries and Chris Carson without the, I don't know if you'd call them fumbling issues because it was really only 1 year, but you can at least argue it. So Roschon Johnson, he's going to bring some power to the table here. He's going to be able to pick up the 3rd and 2. He's going to be able to pick up the 3rd and 1, the 2nd and 2. He's going to be able to pick up short yardage. And he's going to also offer a little bit of flexibility. He's not just a pure bruiser. He had decent speed. His 40 time was identical to Carson, so he's fast enough to get it done in the NFL. Not a lot of wear and tear on his body. And yeah, I think he's perfect for what we need. Round 5, I'm going to another linebacker. I think we need 2. We need 2 linebackers. If one of them is Bobby, then so be it. But as of right now, without Bobby on the team, without Denzel Perryman on the team, I'm bringing in Owen Popoe. And look, he's a little undersized. That's going to be a problem in the NFL, but he is a phenomenal athlete. He's fast, quick, agile, strong. He led all linebackers in bench press at the combine. He dominated pretty much all the combine drills. He was an exciting player before the combine, and now he's an even more exciting player. So Owen Popoe becomes your 2nd rookie linebacker, and this actually sets you up with a decent linebacker core, especially when Brooks gets back. And I say that as someone who doesn't really like Brooks, but he's certainly better than V. Jones right now. So you stack up your depth and you actually have a little bit of a chance. Because right now I'm looking at this linebacker core and I'm thinking we need a lot of help. Not just a little bit, we need a lot. All right, moving on to our next pick in round 5 will be John Gaines, a guard out of UCLA. This is another guy who really boosted his stock at the combine. He was intriguing before the combine, though. He was a good guard at UCLA. I think he largely projects to being a right guard in the NFL, but that remains to be seen. We need guard depth. We honestly need a backup left guard and right guard. I think Gaines would possibly even be able to compete with Phil Haynes for the starting job. I like him. I think he is a little bit underrated in this draft process right now. And for all we know, John Gaines could be a day 1 starter. We certainly got away with 2 day 1 rookie starters last year, so we can certainly do one at right guard this year if Phil Haynes gets hurt or proves not up to the challenge in training camp, which it's not like Phil Haynes played great last year, that's for sure. So I'm picking up John Gaines to be guard depth with a tiny bit, just a little bit of starting potential. Round 6, I am going with, had this guy in my mocks before, having it again, Bryce Ford Wheaton, wide receiver out of West Virginia. I admit that the Seahawks, what they need right now is a receiver who is ready to produce now. They need a receiver who is just ready to go out of the box day 1, who can play a little bit and contribute a little bit because they need to reinforce their receiver core for the short term because right now we have no depth. But Bryce Ford Wheaton in the 6th round, I mean, the talent is so immense. I can't pass it up, even though I acknowledge it could be a year before he's able to do much of anything in the NFL. But he's got the speed, he's got the size, he's got the strength. Like I said, this is another guy who killed the combine. And this is another one of those guys who didn't produce much in college, like DK Metcalf didn't. But there's a lot of DK Metcalf here in Bryce Ford Wheaton. So I'm all over that all day. And finally, round 7, I wasn't really sure what to do here. I went with Lonnie Phelps, an edge from Kansas. Somebody who's expected to be around in the 7th round. Somebody who's definitely turned some heads lately. He was another guy who did pretty well at the combine. Some Seahawks fans are really starting to put him on their radar. And I don't know if we need the edge that badly, but I think we need an edge at least a little bit. May as well throw another steak on the Barbie, I guess. So, look, Alton Robinson didn't play football last year. Tyreek Smith didn't play football last year. We might need another edge more than some people think. We don't know what's going on with those guys right now, so I gave us Lonnie Smith. And that is my mock draft 5.0. We're addressing needs right now. And at the same time, I feel like we're doing a pretty good job taking potentially BPA at all of these picks. I really do. So I'm really happy with this mock personally. Let me know what you think. Obviously, there's some stuff here that makes you nervous, but that's part of the process. See you guys later. Go Hawks.